Welcome back to another video on Gearsaw Studios, and today I'm going to be showing you how to build yourself this pro beach house. Uses a little bit of different stuff from different time periods, but it's predominantly more pirate themed, 1600s per se, especially with these cannons. Along with that, a short palm tree tutorial is included. So without further ado, let's investigate how we'd build this house and its surrounding landscapes. Starting off, we of course need a beach area. If you are not on a beach, you might have trouble. But anyways, any area can do as long as it's sandy. You can even artificially create one if need be. It does not need to be this large, but I just wanted a large beach to make it more serene. Anyways, start off in the water and make these pillars. And what you want to do with these pillars is make them out of jungle. And notice how they're going up from the water. That's because we're going to start with the dock first. Then, what we want to do is continue building them up, and eventually what we want to do is make them into the foundation. And then, of course, because it's a dock, it needs to be a little bit wider than just those blocks. Down here, if it intersects with the ground, then, well, yeah, don't do that. That's kind of ugly, and is a sign of just you didn't put much effort in. Even if you aren't putting much effort in, still try to give the illusion of that. Anyways, well, you can see it's just some wooden pillars. And later on, we'll want to incorporate some mangrove into it. Now, with some of the deck built, now I put down some pegs in order to determine the foundation because it's raised. Flooding is a pretty common thing on beaches. You don't want your house going away over high tide. You should probably build it a little bit higher than that. Anyways, with these pillars now in place, you can decorate them with mangrove, but I recommend finishing your boardwalk first. Because the thing is, if you don't do the boardwalk first, you might get mixed up or just say, I don't need it, and now you have an incomplete build because you probably won't find the time to remove it. Essentially, don't get lazy on this. Now, mixing in some mangrove into this, you can see how it works. We have the redwood. I'm going to put trapdoors over it later, don't worry. And then, after all that, I'm going to add some fences and mix in some fence gates into it. And you can see here, fence. And the reason why I incorporate fence gates into this because, well, you can see how it is right there. Well, that's okay, I guess, but the problem is, well, it's just okay. You can do a little bit better than just plain fences. By incorporating fence gates into it, well, you make it more accessible, as you can run away if there's an emergency, and it looks prettier. Right here, you can see I've now finished this whole deck here. I haven't incorporated all the fence gates into it yet because I had to re-record the first 5 clips. Because of audio issues in the past few videos, I decided to mess with the filters one last time, and now I have to re-record because my noise gate was so strong it was cutting off my words again. Anyways, now I'm actually adding fence gates, and you can see the difference here. And if there's ever a creeper, well, you can always fling yourself off, and now you're in safety. Or at least out of the immediate blast range. Also, you can see, well, if I want to get in and out, well, I'm going to need a way to get into here. And the best way to do that, ladders. Since there's a fence gate, well, I can just open it, close it. Very easy escape access and very easy way to get in. You don't have to use your front or back door every time. Also, I incorporated stone buttons and trapdoors along with a few lanterns into this in order to make sure it was just a little bit better. Now, with this all in place, now I should continue building the rest of this, and then eventually I should work on the walls. For now, basic smooth sandstone will work with a little bit of normal sandstone mixed in on the bottom. Now, I did exactly what I said I would, finished the rest of the deck, and then I added some decorations. A little bit too modern, I'd say, but oh well. And then some barrels here. You can potentially add a tripwire hook onto one of these to make it a bit more pirate-like. What's the purpose of this tripwire hook? Well, this is a PG channel, I can't state that. But anyways, you can probably imagine what it is for. I'm surprised that's actually such a contentious subject. But going forth with the video, more stone buttons, and you can see how I've added them to the little supporting foundations on the rest of the build. This is just to make it a little bit more believable and add that extra detail. You'd be surprised how much little buttons go, even if it might mess with the build if you start pressing them, open trapdoors and leave them open, and even if you don't want them. Still, it's a really nice inclusion, and you should try adding buttons when possible. One last thing, the windows here, you can see the trapdoors. Well, now you can't. You should add them as shutters. They're just a nice addition. Anyways, make sure that you also have dark oak stairs going around the foundation to connect these pillars, so that way whatever you're using for the interior flooring is not visible from the outside. With that part done, I now need to add a few extra decorations to the outside, such as a cannon. Well, you can pause if you want to copy this. It's a pretty unique design. I use a lever in order to make it look like a fuse. More trapdoors, here's exactly how I build it, and then don't forget the black concrete and the extra things on the bottom. But anyways, you should decorate the outside a bit more, even if it doesn't necessarily fit the aesthetic and maybe you want something more tropical. In that case, maybe some carpet, an umbrella with string to hold up the carpet so that way the edges are flatter, things like that. But I'm going to go for more of a swashbuckler vibe here. And with those cannons there, unfortunately not mounted for home defense like the founding fathers intended, well, I want to do the roof. And look, resin. I'm probably a maniac, and well, yes, I might be, but if you mix in some acacia, it actually looks pretty nice. Even if the material is still quite uncertain from this, you'd be surprised how well it works. I strongly recommend mixing in some of the acacia into resin in order to make a nice orange roof. Now, continuing with the rest of the walls in the build, should be pretty simple. You already set out a foundation most likely. Well, if you have a flat wall, try adding a big window like this. Feel free to pause if you want to copy, because it's a design. So, going forth, more porches, more walls, but eventually you might accidentally end up with, get this, a rather large flat wall, which is actually really bad. We don't want this. We actually do the backs of the builds on this channel, so I need to do something about this. And what's the solution? Simple. Make it stick out. Do a nice roof wrapping around it, and what do you know? All your issues with flat walls should be solved if you just make more foundational stuff. By the way, this technically is the front of the build, although I'm going to depict it from the back for most purposes because I just like that angle more. With this wall now successfully going outward like this, well, you can see it's a lot less flat, and I was able to add a little bit more roofing here. And then I added the second floor. And you can see here how I do the roof, goes up, then we have a flat area on top and then down. Surprisingly, I did not use a single block of resin until here, which means I built the entirety of the Pale Castle without resin blocks, only the stairs. So that's surprising. But anyways, you can see right here, well, I have these shutters. Notably, you can see also a bit of moss, trapdoors here, removed a button to make this work, and I also added a dead bush. Along with that, you might want to use some smooth sandstone stairs in order to provide a little bit of damaging to the build, but this should go after windows. But something like this really adds a lot of detail. And you might also want to add windows of this style, no glass, just a bit more rustic per se, adds a bit of character to the build as well. Essentially, you want to make these roofs, well, roof, and you can see here how I have this going on. Note the placement of full blocks in order to make this work. Well, there's an issue, because it means this roof right here needs to be adjusted. So whenever you have something like that, then you have to make sure all your other roofs now properly align. Now with that roof kinda fixed, okay, now it's fixed, we can fill in the rest of this wall. And even though it's asymmetrical, well, sometimes that's necessary in building. In fact, I intentionally made this building asymmetrical. So of course, we want to add more windows, more trapdoors, things like that, and then your minor decorations. And then for this balcony here, because, well, I had a little too large of a second floor, we can potentially use trapdoors to create planter boxes, which is just a little something. You don't have to include it, but personally, I was kind of tired of more generic balconies considering how many I already have. With more and more details being added, what you actually do, like specifics, is up to you. I don't provide exact instructions because I found that trying to copy a build one for one usually just ends up stressful. I encourage you to try your own designs. But anyways, I had this really flat wall here, and I don't like flat walls, so I had to do something about it. So of course I tried adding a big window, but didn't work out. And yes, that's asymmetrical, but not much I can do because it's roof shape. But anyways, I decided to add a little bit of a storage compartment right here. Use some jungle fences, very underutilized block. Really just the jungle set in general is really underutilized. And you can add stairs like this in order to close it off. And while is this practical, realistic, etc.? Probably not, but I like it. And I got to use oak trapdoors, which works really well for that more knitted design. Even though of course it's wood, it can't be knit. But anyways, dark oak down here, and well, it's an area. What you'd put in here, maybe some more piles of chests, crafting tables, barrels, etc. You can do that, but of course you can do whatever you want with that part. Anyways, one last thing before I start working on the interior, which will be a jump cut. Well, you can see the ceilings here, and I use spruce and dark oak. Notably, well, I'm using notably a lot, which is kind of notable, but anyways, you can see dark oak here, and because the roof is covering it from the outside, nobody's going to notice, so it doesn't hurt the build. And then we have the dark oak going up here, and then the spruce. And you can see stair, block, stair, and then mirror. And when we do this, it makes it look like there's bands going across to keep it up, which is really nice looking. You should try incorporating this into the interior right here once that time comes around. But anyways, worry about your flatter walls, perhaps add an extension like this, and then you'll be doing good. Along with that, since I have a proper entrance here, because technically this is the front of the build, even though I prefer looking at it from the dock side, yeah, it's actually meant to be viewed from this angle. Well, you can see I added the spruce here. You should try incorporating this whenever you have those emergency ladders on the build, so that way it looks like it's a real path. Incorporating paths into your builds is really good for making it look lived in, which is why I'm adding right here. You can see, well, the walls are now being added, and this is something I didn't really talk about. You should try partitioning the inside, and this might not work for all designs, especially if you're going for my roof. In that case, technically you could try doing it with walls instead. Make sure that they don't go all the way to the top, but yeah, there's a lot of different ways you can do it. All in all, what I really have to say is you will have to forego this roof design for the most part, or maybe downscale it in order to make it work. Try diagonal walls, and if you want to keep this roof design but also want to have walls, well, there's always a second floor for this. Make sure that there's still a way to the second floor once everything's said and done, preferably by trapdoor and ladder, but if you can make it work, you could try stairs, and if you're able to make that work, then good on you, but I'm most likely going to use the trapdoor ladder method in order to get to the second floor. With the interior completed and the lighting, do one final check to make sure it's safe at night, make sure your balconies at least have one thing each, and now we can go inside to really look around. And I took some inspiration from other YouTubers. I'll provide a video that I found a lot of inspiration from in the top right. And anyways, here's the kitchen. You can see I used some bamboo, blast furnaces. Oops, I forgot to put normal furnaces in here, so make sure to include those. Paintings, barrels, a little dinner set right here using pressure plates instead of item frames. And then, of course, we have a little cranny right here, so that way we have upside down barrels for storage, brewing stands, chest. Then in here, you can see enchanting setup, loom, jukebox, grindstone, you know, a typical enchanting array with some other amenities. And then we can go upstairs in order to see a very large bed. Notice that, well, it uses black beds with black carpet to make it look larger when it really isn't. And then including buttons on the walls for extra detailing. Did this on the outside as well. Don't press them, they'll break all your trapdoors. But anyways, I have a dragon egg lamp here, sea pickles that do absolutely nothing, a little chiseled bookshelf for pretty much no reason here, and then a painting. All in all, it's not too much, but it's certainly an interior, and it makes sure to, well, use its space wisely. With this big wall right here, well, it makes it a lot more interesting than big room, because let's be honest, a lot of survival bases can really be summed up with big room with mining area somewhere. And I made this different by not having a mining area. But anyways, with the storage area right here, this space is completely livable. However, it's not quite done yet. So turning it back to day, well, we need some extra things. So palm trees. I'm not going to provide a super in-depth description on how to do those because I've already made tutorials on that. That one actually still holds up pretty well today, so I'd recommend it. But basically, we want to start off with a little bit of spruce like this. And then when we do the spruce, make sure it has a proper base. You can do jungle with this. Pretty much any wood can work if you do it right. And of course, make sure it has a sturdy foundation. You could use pale birch, potentially even acacia if you're crazy enough. Fortunately, I'm not that crazy yet. But anyways, going all the way up, and now I have the stalk. Then I put a little azalea head right here. And then from here, I do 4 branches, and what do you know, I'll have a palm tree. Repeat this a few times. Then maybe a bit more sugarcane, more pirate-y decorations, maybe even some racks where you put down banners with interesting designs to look like surfboards. Because as you can see, I have zero regard for, realism. Yes, pirates totally used surfboards. My source is I made it up. With my final additions like these quote-unquote surfboards, down here we have some dripstone and granite paths going around, and then some palm trees. Notably, I tried both jungle and spruce and then strip jungle plus jungle stairs. And you can also use birch, and if you're crazy enough, you can also use pale. Essentially, we got those ones you find on the tropical islands. We got your more stereotypical depiction, and if you include birch slash pale, then you have the ones that have those very, very painful fibers on them that I almost certainly did not try wiping my hands on because they're dirty one day. Stop trying to accuse me of doing that. I totally didn't do that. But anyways, well, this house is complete. You can see more cannons, more of those cannonball holders, and got storage, and we have everything else we need inside, which means it's the end of today's video. If you enjoyed this video, remember, please like and subscribe. And I've heard, well, audio mixing complaints. Yeah, I found the solution. It turns out something in my editor because I updated it because just things with it. Well, it turns out it turned on something called normalize audio, which meant my normal 5 to 8% volume music cranked up to 30%. Thus, my outro should be a normal volume for once. So either way, enjoy the rest of your day. Gearsaw out.